Welcome back. We're here to talk about an interesting way to use Flexique Glue. Now, you probably already know that there are other episodes that talk about how you use our Flexique product line to do various things. So you might want to check those out if you haven't seen them already. Check the descriptions and find what you want to learn about. Some really cool stuff that you can do with Flexique products. But this one's going to talk about how to use Flexique Glue to create edible paper mache. Now, I'm sure you've done paper mache before, right? So this is a way to use Flexique Glue and wafer paper to replicate any shape in a lightweight edible form. So before we start talking about that, let me remind you that wafer paper does come in various thicknesses. We've talked about this before. So you know that there's an O or AD, which is the most common one that we use with our Flexique products. It's a nice thin wafer paper. Then there's an ADD, which is just slightly thicker. And then a DD, which is like a cardstock. So be careful when you select the wafer paper that you're going to use for this project, because the Flexique Glue has to absorb into the wafer paper so that it can adhere to the object you're trying to replicate. If you want a stiffer result, then you might want to use a stiffer wafer paper. So you can use various colored wafer papers, or just a plain white wafer paper. Now, the other thing you can do is color the glue. Use white wafer paper so that when you paint on the glue on the white wafer paper, you actually get the color from the glue on top of the white. So the last thing you can do is actually use some printed wafer paper. You have several sources. You can either print your own if you have an edible printer, or you can buy some interesting designs that are already pre-printed with the design that you want to use for your replication. Okay, so let's get started with the process. I'm going to use an egg as my object that I want to replicate. And the first thing I'm going to do is just to make sure that it will separate when it's dry, I'm going to coat it with just a little bit of the shortening, okay? Just to give it a coat so that it releases nicely. Okay, so I have some glue that I've warmed up in a silicone cup. I'm going to use a brush and just coat my object. Now you want to probably start in small sections at a time, especially if it's a large object. Do a small section at a time, and then use your wafer paper pieces and adhere them to what you just coated. Now, if they don't stick very nicely, you could put a coating of the glue on the wafer paper piece. Oops. And then adhere it to your object and press it down. We're going to continue to do that around the entire object to get a coating of the glue and then a layer of wafer paper. So let me do that real quickly. So now there's a layer of Flexique Glue and then wafer paper. What I'm going to do now, after everything is tacked down very nicely, is put another layer of glue on top of that to hold everything together. And there you have it. You just let that dry overnight, and then you can just in the morning lift it right off and you'll have a lightweight replication of that object. All right, so you can always do the other half of it, and then you'll have two halves that you can attach together. So let me show you an example of one that we've done. Okay, so here's one that we've created previously with a slightly different technique. We took the wafer paper, covered it with Flexique glue, let it dry, and then punched out shapes with a daisy cutter, and then used those shaped pieces of the Flexique glue on wafer paper to attach to the shape of the egg. So let me show you that this was the plastic egg that we used to replicate. And now we can take and attach these two together and use either a regular ribbon, or you can use Flexique ribbon to make the whole thing edible, attach it together, and now you can put edible candy in the egg. One other example that I've done yesterday was a bottle. Again, the process, glue, pieces of wafer paper, and I just used various colors of white, green, and red. And then the next day, which is today, I'm going to take it off to show you that it replicates the shape very nicely. And there's your bottle. You see it's lightweight. You can trim the end off. If you did this all in white, you could paint designs on it. But you've now got your shape that's very, very lightweight and edible at the same time. So there it is. A very easy way to replicate any shape in edible form. Edible paper mache. Pretty neat, huh? Think of all the possibilities. We'll be providing some additional information soon. If you like what you see, please give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. Until next time, take care.